Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome. My name is Nikita. I am a full-time therapist who also likes to create content part-time. And on this channel, we talk about inclusion of BIPOC stories, both in fiction and in real life. So you can expect a lot of book chats, book recommendations, as well as my podcast called Brown People Problems. So welcome back to another video. Hope everyone is doing well. If you haven't already, feel free to like and subscribe. I do like to share videos twice every week. And it's been now a couple months. I have been, I guess, part of this YouTube community and BookTube community, and it's been fun. It's been a great learning experience. And it's always nice to just do creative stuff. So that creative part of me has definitely felt quite fulfilled these last couple of months. And of course, also really nice to share what I'm reading with everyone and get recommendations from everyone. So thank you to everyone who's subscribed and who's liked and who's shared my videos. And thanks to everyone who's sharing their recommendations as well. You are really adding to my growing list of TBR. So for today, I wanted to share my spring TBR as well as my spring book haul. I went book shopping. Well, I go book shopping almost every week, so I have accumulated a few books that are on my mind for the spring season. And obviously half of these are BIPOC authors and BIPOC stories, and there's some that are non-BIPOC authors as well, just to keep things like a nice mix. And if you enjoy this focus on BIPOC stories, BIPOC authors, and that type of inclusivity that I frankly think we need to see more on BookTube and even just in general in fiction, please let me know your thoughts down below. I found another fellow booktuber who really focuses on reading stories by people of color as well. I'll link her channel down below. Her name is Jananie. She is also a fellow Canadian, and she's actually started this challenge called Read in Color Challenge. So she encourages you that for every kind of book that you read by a white author, to also read a book by a BIPOC colored author. So I thought that was a really, really lovely initiative. And so check it out. She has some really great recommendations as well for BIPOC reads. But without further ado, let's get started on my spring book haul / TBR. So I've got them all really nicely laid out here. Gosh, I may or may not have already read a couple of these or started on a couple of these. But the very first one that has been so hyped and is been really like on top of my TBR is A Day of the Fallen Knight by Samantha Shannon. This is a prequel to The Priory of the Orange Tree, which, you know, is probably one of the best, biggest fantasies and epics to come out in the last couple of years. And this is a prequel to that. And, you know, full disclosure, I'm still working my way through The Priory of the Orange Tree because it's like 800 pages long. It's quite dense and I read it in small doses. So as soon as I'm done that, I'm gonna start these. This also is just as monstrous. But if you haven't heard of the series of The Priory Tree or of Day of the Fallen Knight, this is basically a story around, well, this is fantasy. It's a fantastical epic with this classic element of good versus evil, battle for the control of the world, involves a lot of dragons. And somebody described it online as a feminist Game of Thrones. And I think that, like, they nailed the description of this series. You've got, instead of kingdoms, you've got queendoms, you've got just women, all these positions of power, you've got really like the same politics, that same dynamic that you have with shows like Game of Thrones, but now imagine it being very like female led. So I love that added piece. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this. I know this has been one of the most hyped new releases of 2023. So if anyone has already read this, please let me know your thoughts, because I really enjoyed Priory up until I think I hit like page 500 or something, because it seems like the author really tried to condense and squeeze in a lot of stuff towards the end of the book. And I know a lot of people have felt similarly. So I hope that is not the case with this, because Priory was like a really slow build. And then like all of a sudden there's so many things happening in each chapter. So I'm looking forward to this one. If someone has read it, please let me know your thoughts. But it's a big one. My back is hurting from holding it up, so I'm gonna put it down. All right, next up, I have Immortality by Dana Schwartz. Now this is a sequel to Anatomy by Dana Schwartz that came out last year. I believe I have it here. And this was on Reese Witherspoon's YA book club, and it is a YA story. It's kind of marketed as a love story, but there's so much more than romance in this. This is a historical fiction set in Scotland and Edinburgh in the early 1800s, and it involves a story of like Hazel. She is born into nobility. She basically wants to be a surgeon. So it's a female, it's like a 16-year-old girl who wants to be a surgeon, but obviously even though her class allows her a lot of privileges, her gender does not give her the privilege to practice medicine, even learn medicine. So it's a really great story about how she like navigates that, and she meets a boy named Jack Cure, who is basically someone who comes from poverty, and he robs graves for a living. Well, robs graves sounds bad. He basically digs up freshly buried bodies from graveyards to sell them to the medical college and the Anatomy Society for dissection and for medical study. So it's a very unlikely pairing, but these two meet, and yes, romance is a big part of this book, but just the historical storytelling around this was lovely. I really enjoy books set in like moody like parts of Europe, and this was really great. So check it out if you haven't already. But Immortality is the second part of that. It's a duology, so this was it. I have read this already. I think I read it in 2 days. I finished it yesterday. And it was great. It was a great conclusion to this duology. I wish this still had the original Edinburgh setting, but it doesn't. But again, like a great historical fiction. There's a bit of a fantasy element too, which was nice. I wasn't expecting it. But if you like historical fictions, if you like, women navigating difficult situations like class and gender inequality, with some added romance, you would really like this series. All right, next up we have The Age of Vice by Aditi Kapoor. Now, I've never heard of this author. This is a brown female author. She, I believe, now lives in Portugal, but she is born and bred in India. And I'd never heard of this author. I just saw some people on BookTube really talk about this and anticipated one of the most anticipated releases of 2023. And I've just started this. I'm only about 20 pages in. And this is really great. This is massive, like you can see, but this is like an action-packed family political drama that takes place in India. She had me sold as soon as I read the first paragraph. So I'll read it out for you. It's just from the dust jacket. This is the age of vice, where pleasure and power are everything, and the family ties that bind can also kill. New Delhi, 3 a.m. A speeding Mercedes jumps the curb, and in the blink of an eye, 5 people are dead. It's a rich man's car, but when the dust settles, there's no rich man at all, just a shell-shocked servant who cannot explain the strange series of events that led to this crime. Now, nor can he foresee the dark drama that is about to unfold. And that just sounds amazing. So this is all set in northern India, and like you can already tell, it's a story about politics and class and privilege and how that clashes. in society, and it's gotten some really great reviews. I'm very excited to read this. This is definitely on the darker side. Nothing about this, not the cover, not the plot, screams spring to me, but I like to balance out my spring reading with something that's a little bit more moody. Typically I would pick this in the later part of the year, maybe in the fall time, but I'm willing to try it now. But you'll see I have a lot of other like lighter, fluffier reads as well on my TBR, but I'm very excited to get into this properly. So when I think about spring, I think about books that are feel good, books that are really centered around really endearing, charming characters, and unlikely heroines. So people who traditionally like are not maybe like as massively represented in fiction. And so this book is the perfect pick for spring, I think, for me. This is Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers by Jessie Q. Sutanto. This is the same author who wrote Diary for Aunties, and if you've been here for some time, you've definitely heard me rave about that book. And so this is a standalone book about Vera Wong, who is an elderly lady who runs a tea shop and finds, I think, someone dead in her tea shop, and she starts looking into the mystery. So again, it's like a feel-good, cozy mystery with a really endearing, adorable main character who's this elderly Chinese lady. I just don't think that demographic is represented at all in fiction. And there's a line from the back here that's really hilarious, but it says, you know, why would she investigate the murder? Because Vera is sure she can do a better job than the police possibly can. Nobody sniffs out a wrongdoing quite like a suspicious Chinese mother with time on her hands. So I'm looking forward to some really funny cultural commentary because Jessie Q. Sutanto really does that really well. So I'm really excited for this, and let me know if anyone else has read it or you're gonna read it. Maybe we can read it together online. This would be a lot of fun. Now, I didn't haul this book recently. I've had it for some time, and I'm probably the only person left on BookTube who hasn't read this, but on my TBR for spring is Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid, and I've heard a lot about it. I know the TV show just came out too, but I've had it for like I think 2 years or whatever, a year when it came out. I just never got around to it, and I really want to read this. This is about, like, it's set in the 70s, historical fiction about like I'm guessing like a band. I know nothing about 70s music. Was not around until the 90s, and I did not grow up around anybody who liked the 70s or the 80s music, so I just don't have like that anything like pulling me to like really read it, besides the fact that it has a lot of hype around it, and I do really want to check it out. So I don't know if anyone has read it. Let me know, like, did you like it? Is this worth the hype, or is this just one of those, you know, I really enjoy Reese Witherspoon's book club picks, but then some of them can just be a little bit hyped. So is this one of those like fake hypes, or is this worth the hype? Let me know, because I think this also has a romance element, and I enjoy reading romance this time of the year. Springtime is perfect for it. So I don't know, I don't have too much else to say about this one, except that I'm open to trying it. This is definitely a type of book that's quite outside of like my comfort zone, so I'm looking forward to trying it. Okay, next up we have Your Driver is Waiting by Priya Guns. Now this is a fellow Canadian author. This is her debut, and this is basically about, I think, a South Asian cabbie, and there's a queer romance as well, which I'm really excited about. And this is described as like a social satire. So the dust jacket says, in this electrifyingly fierce and funny social satire, a rideshare driver is barely holding it together on the hunt for love, dignity, and financial security, until she decides she's done waiting. I'm assuming there's like a lot of social commentary around like race, class, gender, and then like probably a lot of conversation around like queer relationships and a queer identity versus heteronormative like heroines. So again, it's sort of, yes, it has like a deeper social message, I'm assuming, but because it's social satire, it's going to have some dark humor. I'm looking forward to that. Anything that's humorous in any way is something that I really enjoy for spring. So has some really, really great reviews, and I'm looking forward to checking this out. Now, next up, I have a few romances. So I was never a romance reader, and I find that I'm slowly getting into it. It's just nice to have something fluffy and light to read. Because like you can tell, I like reading a lot of serious stuff or something with like a lot of serious themes. So it's nice to have something light and fluffy to read. And I recently discovered Tessa Bailey, who's really famous here on BookTube. And right now I'm reading It Happened One Summer on my Kobo. And so I enjoyed it. It's nice. It's like a romance book. I don't know what more to expect from a romance than just, it's nice, it's feel good, it's something light, it transports you into like a different reality for some time. It's a nice escape. Tessa Bailey's stories are really, really, I guess, spicy. So I'm still trying to figure out if that's something that I feel very comfortable with, but if anyone doesn't like reading spicy romance, then Tessa Bailey's stuff is definitely not for you. But I am reading It Happened One Summer, and I went ahead and I bought the second one in the series, which is called Hook, Line, and Sinker. And both of these take place in like a small fishing town in Washington. And I think it's basically about these two girls, these two like rich girls from LA who, are banished by their rich dad to the small town to learn a lesson, really. And then, so it's the two sisters, and they, I think, fall in love, and they made these two fishermen. So the first book is about the older sister, Piper, and the second book is about the younger sister, Hannah. So again, just like fun, just easy reads, something just light, any type of romance or any type of light fun read is perfect for spring. Speaking of romance, the next book that I bought and it's also on my TBR is Love on the Brain by Ali Hazelwood. Again, a really popular name here on BookTube, and again, a romance book. But what I actually really like about Ali Hazelwood is that she's a neuroscientist herself, and so her love stories her romances are all about women in STEM. So, this like little subgenre, she likes to call it, like a STEMinist romance, but it's all about all the main characters, all the female protagonists are women in STEM. So I believe this one is about Levy, who is in neuroscience as well, and she's doing a PhD, or she already has her PhD, and it's just a nice different setting for romance, which is just academia. I read the other one by Ali Hazelwood, The Love Hypothesis, which was nice. So I'm looking forward to reading this as well. And I have another Tessa Bailey that I want to read for spring, which is The Tools of Engagement. Now, this is, I believe this is the third one in a series. I haven't read the first two. I think I'm gonna buy and read those first, but I think this is romance, but like HGTV romance. So it's set around, I don't know, these two characters who like to renovate and like flip houses, and I thought that was a really interesting context. So again, I'm not expecting too much from these books, but just something like a nice light read, a nice distraction to have from some of like the other heavier books that I've got here. And again, anything with new beginnings, anything with first encounters, all of that really screams springtime to me. So I love books like this for spring. The next book that's on my spring TBR is another romance, but I believe this is not a spicy romance at all. So maybe some of you might want to check this out. This is called Sorry Not Sorry by Sonia Singh, who's a fellow Canadian, Indo-Canadian brown woman as well. And this, seems like, actually it's quite small. It's only 300 pages. And this is about a young brown woman called Manny Dogra, who's a CEO of a company, and she basically finds herself in like a predicament where I think she has to go to a wedding and she needs to find a date, and she's also considered like a little bit too westernized in like her cultural circles. So she basically, I think, needs like, she finds this guy to give her training on how to be more in touch with her South Asian heritage. So it seems like a really funny, really interesting, quite relatable trope. So I'm looking forward to reading this. I haven't heard too many people talk about this. So I'm curious to see what this is gonna be like. But yeah, again, just something light, funny, for spring is perfect. Very atmospheric. Next up, I have The Fraud Squad by Kyla Zhao. And you can see all of my little indigo stickers. I sometimes pick up books that are on sale. Even if I'm not planning on reading them anytime soon, I just always pick them up because they are on sale and I know I want to read them at some point. So I got this. This is an author I have not heard about before, but I believe this book is set in Singapore and it follows Samantha Song, who's our main protagonist, and she is someone who, you know, maybe like comes from like a lower class, and she doesn't, in her social status, her low social status keeps her from having the kind of life that she wants, which is, I guess, all like glitz and glam, until she gets caught up with one of like Singapore's elite, one of the guys from Singapore's elite. So it seems like this is just a fun book about maybe like some like class drama, social class drama, and just about a girl trying to like figure out her life. Sounds like an interesting premise. Again, just something very like light. I enjoy these social dramas for spring particularly because I reserve mostly like all my thrillers and all my murder mysteries for the fall time and for the winter time. So I need something a lot more lighter and fun and not so over the top for spring and summer. So I think this is gonna be a good pick. I haven't heard anybody talk about this actually on YouTube. So if somebody has read this, please let me know your thoughts. All right, we're down to the last two books of the spring book haul and TBR. These are, I guess, like more like heavier themes, but I have got All My Rage by Sabah Tahir. And this is something that I've heard a lot of people talk about, and I'm really excited to get into this. As you can see, it's an award winner. It's won the National Book Award as well as Michael Prince Award for Excellence in Young Adult Literature. This is one of those books that I've just heard so many people talk about it. I bought it without reading too much about it, and I want to go into it blind, but this seems like it's set in Lahore in Pakistan, and it like moves between like Lahore and California. So it seems like our protagonist is someone with like a dual identity, but it seems like this is a nice book about family, forgiveness, loss, cultural dynamics. It's multi-generational, crosses generations, crosses contents. And because the narrative bounces between like Pakistan and California, I'm guessing that we're gonna get some bits of like history about a character and then some about what's going on in the now. People have described this book as like really infectious, so I'm excited to get into this. And I think this is, gosh, I think this is my first book by a Pakistani author, and that's really embarrassing for me because, yeah, I don't know why I don't have books by more Pakistani authors. But I'm looking forward to this. I've heard a lot about this, and I will report back. And the last book in my spring haul and TBR is What a Happy Family by Soumya Dave. This is the same author who wrote Well-Behaved Indian Women that I read earlier in the year. I liked it, but I didn't love it as much as everybody else. So I'm excited to get into this other novel. I believe this was her first novel. And it's got good reviews by Taylor Jenkins Reid. It's got good reviews by Emily Giffen. So like a lot of authors that I really enjoy have really endorsed this book. But this again seems like a South Asian family drama set in Atlanta in present day, US. And it seems like, this family has like some sort of big scandal. And it's about how they navigate the scandal, how the community helps them navigate the scandal. So I don't know too much about it, but family drama, I'm all here for it. I love my family dramas. I think the best family drama I read was The Nest by Cynthia Sweeney. And this was really popular a few years ago. And I haven't heard many people talk about it, but I love a good feel-good family drama that ends well, that ends with like a lot of personal development, character development, you know, has sort of like, not a happy ending, but sort of has like a lot of growth and charm. And I love books like that. So I'm hoping this is going to be fun. It doesn't seem that big, just under 400 pages. And Soumya Dev's writing style is very smooth. It's really what I prefer to read. So that's it, everyone. Thank you for joining me. If you're still here at the end of this, please feel free to like, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will report back on how all of these books are. Again, really encourage you to diversify your reading, include more BIPOC stories, more LGBTQ stories. Inclusion is always a really lovely thing. And I will see you in my next video. Take care, everyone.